All right, folks, we're going to get started talking about our second exercise in assemblies, creating main connectors. So in your create an assembly, you're going to move stuff around in the assembly and orient it to the origin. We're going to make a fasten, slider, and revolute make connection within a couple different parts here. And I'm going to show you how to make a make connector between two parts. So we can actually make points rather than try to use Onshape and have it reference parts of the geometry. I already made a document. I have a creating make connectors assembly here. I have no instances of anything. If we take a look, they're having us create a copy of their document. Again, if you're in my class, I'm not having you work within this document. You're working with in your own document. So you want to go ahead and make a copy of this doc. And then when you hop back into your document, I'm going to go ahead and close this because I've already done it. I can go into other documents here and I can grab some instances of all the parts from this copy. And if I hit the check, I can start dragging things apart. Again, things are already together because they're modeled together, but they're not actually assembled. We couldn't actually see how things are clicked together and how they can rotate together and simulate what this hydraulic pump would look like or not hydraulic pump, this like lever arm would look like in real life. So if we take a look at the next step, they've kind of walked us through a couple things. The first thing that they're asking us to do is orient this part so that it's not sideways like we see here. What we actually want to see is this is up top, and this will be oriented with the bottom of our viewport. So they're talking about the triad. We've talked about the triad maybe once before. This thing right here is the triad that I'm moving around. References are X, Y, and Z. These arrows allow us to move things. These little sliders here allow us to kind of also float things around. Sometimes when you're transforming, it'll help you scale. And then these little guys here help us rotate stuff. So now that I've thoroughly messed some stuff up, and we have this part kind of floating in the middle of nowhere, the first step is they want us to take this triad and snap it to the middle of the object. Now, it can be a little tricky at first. Sometimes you might have to zoom in like you just saw me do. But once you kind of get your mouse in the right spot, you'll notice that the triad snaps to the center of the part. So we want to see that. That's great. What I should be able to do right now is make it so that this arrow is either aligned with the Z or anti-aligned with Z. That's going to make it so that the part's rotated around and it's in an orientation either pointing up or down. Anti-aligned with Z seemed to be the way we wanted to do it. Again, these parts here, the pin and these two little, I don't know what to call them, but like finger slots, are pointing upwards. That's great. The second step that we have to take is we need to make it so this point right here is snapped to the origin. Easy peasy, right click on that point, say move to origin, and let's go ahead and fix the base. So again, fixing means we can't move anything anymore. It's stuck, it's concrete, it's like it's on a table, it's bolted down, can't move it. It is our reference so that all of the other parts can move around. So we just blasted through that. We made that triad connector. We anti-aligned it with Z. That seemed to work for me. You might have to do align with Z if the arrow is pointing in a different direction. You give it a try. We snapped this point to the origin and we fixed it. Next point, we have to make it so this little ring right here is fasten mated to this area right here. Now we might see something slightly different here. We'll see what we get in a moment. But if I rotate around on this part, fasten mate connection, I'm mousing over this little ring right here to get the center point. I want to fasten mate from there to, if I mouse over this right here, right there. Now, not exactly the way I want it to look, obviously. I can just flip it with the arrow, hit the check, and we've got that second part done there. Keep moving, and I gotta use my sizer tool because I think I may have just made the window a teensy bit smaller. What is it? Control Alt Z. Oh, that's not it. Control, that's Alt Windows Z. Control Windows Z. Okay, there you go. YouTube 1080, a little bit bigger now. Good. In here, this bushing's oriented the proper way. Now we want to make it so that we have a slider make connection between this object and this object right here. All it's doing is making it so that this slides within this bushing right here. If I grab slider, mouse over, grab the center point of this plunger piece here, and then we'll grab this point here. That looks great. However, it also needs to be flipped in the opposite direction. Once we got that, we are really, really cooking. Now, and you'll notice I'm listening to some music. My headphones keep dying if I don't do it. I gotta, listen to some stuff in the background. Next point we're going to do is we actually need to connect this lever arm to our base right here. We need to create a mate connector between these two faces. So it needs to be between. We don't have anything in between right now. And they give you some like kind of informative notes here. Basically, the connection point needs to be on center of these circles, and it needs to be between this surface in yellow here and this surface in yellow here. This is the same part, it's just been rotated around. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we'll connect it. So creating a mate connector, at first it seems weird, but it's straightforward, and you've been using mate connectors this whole time we've been in assembly. This time we're just explicitly creating one, Control M or mate connector here, instead of being on entity. So instead of being like on a specific point, we want it to be between entities. So this drop down is critical right there. Now again, I want my point to be on this surface here, but actually in the center here of this hole. And it's going to be between that surface that we just selected and this surface right here. And now we have a mate connector exactly between those two areas. If you choose the wrong thing, which you can do, just restart. Again, it needs to be aligned. The first triad or mate connector point needs to be aligned with this circle right here and this surface here, and then that surface there. Okay, now that we got that, we can move on. I believe we are going to be creating a revolute mate. Revolute mate, got it right here. We can click on that mate connector we just made. And then if I mouse over here, I want to select the center of this little pin that we got right here. What you should hopefully see when you hit the check is there's a little gap on the left and the right. Okay, we're working off the center here. Everything's equally spaced, it's floating, but connected. And now I can actually rotate this lever arm, and I can also, let's go into isometric here, can also slide this plunger in and out. Way cool. The last piece of the puzzle before we put on our grip is to connect things. Now, if you noticed that your lever arm was going the right way, we're just going to go back a second. If you noticed your lever arm was facing the wrong direction, don't fret, you can always like rotate things around. Mine, I was lucky the first time it was facing the right direction, but you can flip the arrow, rotate things around if you need to fix that, okay? But hopefully, if you're following me, you got it right the first time. If not, these two buttons are your friends in that revolute. Onward we go. We need to connect this little linkage. Again, they try to show you, and it's not totally apparent here, we're working off the center of our pin and our cylinder. So again, not this point, not that point, the center point. And the same is going to apply in this hole right here, and I'm going to show you in just a sec. Again, we're using a revolute mate, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, revolute. These next two are going to just be revolutes, real hopefully plain and simple. If I mouse over, I'm not working on this surface, I'm working within this hole. And you'll see I have three things that I can mouse over. This one, the center one, or the far one. We want to work with the center point right there. So if I click that, zoom out, go to my pin right here, also click on the center point right here. Things are on center. If I hit the check, I can spin this thing around, grab one last revolute mate, and do the same thing one more time. So again, not one side or the other, center. Maybe you have to rotate your screen around to do that. And then I can click on this point right here. Got that. You'll notice things snap because they have limits now. If I rotate this, bingo. This little plunger assembly is working. If I'm not mistaken, we might have to put some, no, we don't have to put limits on anything. Sick. So things might go a little weird if you have some limits. This limit right here is what I forgot to do. We're going back a moment. If we take a look at here, for the revolute connector for this arm to this pin right here, We have a limit in the Z small of 1.5 degrees, limit in the Z big of 8.6, So that would be this one right here. Limits, what did I say? 1.5, 8.6.5. Let's see if I was right. Is my brain working? 1.5865. If I hit the check, now I can only rotate this like a certain amount until it stops working. That looks a little... that works. That's close to almost not working, but that looks good. All right, one last bit. And so unfortunate that I, missed that limit, but whatever, we got it in here. And I'm not remaking this video. My headphones died once already, halfway through. So I guess we're listening to Baroque music now, but you're not listening to it. It's just me, because I'm not trying to get DMCA'd. Anyways, section view, our section plane, just so that it can view halfway into this grip, is going to be this surface right here. Again, I grabbed it using section view underneath of the drop down there. Items to exclude, I'm just going to say this right here. You don't have to do it, but it's just good practice. Going to grab fastened mate, because fastened is what we want this to be. I'm going to grab this point up here along the top, and then I'm going to rotate around to find its matching side over here. I'll click that, and now things are snapped together. You'll notice that the section view went away because the section plane was actually way over here. Now it's here. We can turn section view off. You can do whatever you want to do, and that is the exercise. I now have a gripper arm that looks and moves like it should in real life if we were to fabricate and make and assemble all these parts. Let me know if you have any questions or anything went totally awry and wrong, and I hope you got through it. Let me know if you need videos for anything else, Onshape or other CAD program-wise. Open to suggestions. Please like, subscribe, comment, give me some feedback, whatever works for you, and thank you to those of you who have reached out. Have a great day. Bye-bye.